All right. So welcome to Project Management Basics. This is one of the Career Center Skills Labs I wanted to do this year to help you guys connect. There's a bit of a lag. We'll see if that lag continues. I'm trying to make this present. Sorry, got a lot of tabs open, as you can see, and that never makes it easy. But what we're going to talk about today is project management. We're going to focus on project management technology, and we'll talk very briefly at the end about careers in project management as well. Let me see if I can make this guy present. There we go, finally. All right, so we're going to be talking about particularly Asana. I will show you guys Monday, which is very similar to Asana. But first, let's start with, let me hide this, and let me just say right now, feel free to throw questions in the chat. I'll have that open in a little bit after I hide this real quick. Throw some questions in the chat if you have them, unmute and talk. This is a very informal experience. So let me get the chat open just in case I see questions. Throw that in here. We'll move that out of the way. All right, so let's get started. So in terms of what project management means, I mean, we all have a sense of this, even if we've never used particular project management software, but it basically means leading a team or group of folks in delivering a project. And depending on the kind of project, that might be something like developing software, constructing a building or a design of a website. All of those are projects that we can divide into labor, so the folks who are doing it, and parts, so like the tasks. There's generally a beginning, middle, and end to any of these projects. Now, you can practice project management for yourself as well. This isn't only something you can do in a group, but obviously most of these project management skills are really all about kind of dividing labor and then accomplishing things in order. All right, so what's really important to us is to make sure you guys understand, why are we talking about project management right now? Well, that is becoming one of the most in-demand skills across every industry. And pre-pandemic in 2017, Burning Glass Technology basically surveyed every internship that was posted for a whole year. And they discovered that the top crossover skill for those internships was project management. And in an increasingly skills-based market, it's important to understand the value of getting those keywords on your resume. And more recently, project management has been even more front and center in terms of it really dictates how we all get work done when we're not in the same room. These tools that I'm going to be talking about are excellent tools for leading and guiding teams who are not all in the same space. But in fact, most of them are trapped at home, on their computers. Designers and tech folks, I think I skipped, sorry about that. Designers and tech folks were kind of the first ones to use these tools, but now they've branched into every industry. And I can say in my own experience, sorry, I have children, they're gonna be distracting, I hope not too much. But even in higher education, we're using heavily these project management tools. So what does a project management software do? Project management used to be a skill that you either had or you didn't, or you learned while you were in school, like how to get things done. But the technology or the software has a lot of different functions, and they vary according to the tool you're using. And we're going to dip into one of those pretty deeply, and then we'll talk a little bit about another one. But in general, they help you break a project into smaller tasks and then manage those tasks, track and report what parts of a task are accomplished. They also help you organize collaboration. So there's a lot of communication embedded in those tools. They also help you share documents and files, and many of them have integrations with Google Docs or with other cloud computing tools, even images. They also help you manage time and record how long things take and track how long things take. They also help control permission. So I might have part of a project I have permission to view, and then when I send it to another team, it may then have different security and permissions depending on where it's at in the process. And they also help you manage your portfolio. And like I said, you guys will be getting this slide deck. I know these slides are very text heavy. The intention is for those of you who do not come and listen, or who aren't kind of video learners, who don't watch the video, this slide deck should be able to teach you everything that I'm saying today. All right, so in terms of the options for project management technology, we've kind of talked about the fact that it's increasingly valuable, particularly post-pandemic or mid-pandemic, wherever we are. But it's helpful to think through, like, this is just a concept, right? Until we dip into what the tools are. These are some of the most popular tools. I will say it varies a lot depending on.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, I'm in the middle of something.
Could you mute? Because that would be, you can mute or unmute as necessary. All right. So different types of industries use different products. I'm going to get into the most user-friendly ones. I'm going to be talking about Asana on Monday. That's not to say that Trello isn't great, Wrike, Smartsheet, or Basecamp. These are all tools you can learn about. I'm just starting with the one that I use because I have found it to be very user-friendly, and it has a free version. But feel free to do your own research and see, depending on the industry that you're working in, what's a more common tool. Basecamp is very popular for tech companies. All right, so I'm just going to show you quickly, give you a quick tour of Asana. The reason I'm featuring Asana, there's two reasons. I don't know why that image didn't show up or what's going on. Let me see if I can get back to this slide. Sorry, we're opening up Asana. For some reason, my screenshot didn't appear, but I will show you the tool. A couple things before we get into the tool. The basic version of Asana, which in the Career Center we used for, I think, about 5 months before we switched to premium. So we actually got a lot out of the basic version, was $0. The major limitation is you can't collaborate with more than 15 teammates. So for some people, that's not a real deal breaker. There are also some features that you don't get in the basic version. The premium version is about $11 a month. And that's if you pay annually. So you pay the whole 12 months times $10.99. I'm going to go through some of the features. You can see the forms, boards, calendar view, but it's going to make a lot more sense to you if we get you in the tool, and I can show you how we use it in the Career Center. So most project management tools, let me make this a little bit bigger, will offer you different views of projects depending on the view that is best for you as a user and that is best for the type of project you're working on. I'm going to take you to, oh, not this tool, sorry. On the left-hand side, you can see these are all the teams that I am a part of. These are teams, every one of these folks works in the Career Center. These are all teams for our career communities, early engagement. I have my own Asana that I play with, but I'm gonna move to another team. I have 2 memberships. This is my free membership that I can show you. And this is a board that we created, or a project rather, that we created to develop all of the Career Center handouts that I'm going to show you at the end of this. So our whole career library was developed through this project management board. Now, I'm going to show you really quickly. This board is called Career Readiness Resources. You can see that the list view shows you the work exactly as you would imagine in the section. So to do, in review, complete, printed, posted online. Now we created all of these tasks. These are the tasks that we assigned for this project. This was a project where we decided what handouts do we need. These are all the to-dos. And then we move them. I'm going to show you the board view because in my opinion, the board view is the most intuitive. It depends on what kind of a learner you are, but I'm a very visual person. So these tasks then populate a board. And then for each of these tasks, let me go back here, the list view, so I can show you, we can add another to do under here. So I'm just going to call this one test. And then when I go into my board, you can see the test has been added. What's really cool is you can also assign. So now I'm going to assign this task to me because it's for me. I'm going to give myself a due date. Let's say it's due tomorrow. And then I can set up notifications in Asana to email me reminders that I have tasks coming up. I can also look at the calendar and see visually, I have this test due very shortly. So this is a great tool for you guys to see that it works. The views are really what is the best part of this. And it sounds like project management technology would be something where you're coding or doing something else, but it's really drag and drop. So for example, if I decide, you know what, I'm going to get into this test one and I'm going to say, all right, I'm already ready. I'm going to use, let's see, I'm going to use this presentation that I made for a different skills lab. Let me get into Asana and I'm going to say, this is what I wanted to make. I want someone to review it now. So now I am going to, 0 people will be notified. So what I need to do now is add a collaborator. Do that right now. I'm going to add a colleague of mine, Jesse. And then when I go in here, I'm going to enter this as a comment. So now the project is here. She can go into this link and review it. And then I can assign it, switch it to Jesse, and move it to in review. So you can see how it's a drag and drop. You go into each little to-do, you add a document or an image or an editing tool, and then you move it across the board as it goes through those processes. You also assign it to the right people at the right stage. Now you can see most of the docs on here are assigned to our designer, Tara Hoover, and that's because she did the last part of this. This is also where we tracked which ones were done, have we posted them online, have they been printed, etc. But these different views vary. Timeline is actually something, I have never used this one. You can try for free, but this is in the premium. I'm in my free account right now. But the calendar view is really useful in terms of just looking at your day, what do I have due? Now you can have multiple boards. So this is one project, right? The Career Readiness Library. And so I have a board for this project. If I had another project, I could add that over here on the left-hand side. And you can see under here, I have the library, I have career community resources, which is a whole separate board with different content. And in fact, different steps, because I've customized this. And then I have Spring 2020 projects, which I can view as a list or a board. I've actually never used this progress one. I think you probably have to add statuses, but I haven't done that. Forms is one of the most useful parts of this, but I have not actually, forms are in the premium version. And so some of my team are using them in the premium, but I haven't used them that. But they do automate some information that then maps into the projects that you've created here. Let me quickly ask if there's, this is, you know, like it's not new to me, but it might be new to some of you. So I would like to take a minute as this loads to, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to answer questions. Let me find my stop share. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Are there any questions about the boards, the projects, the tasks, adding documents, adding links, any of that? Sorry, Slender Man is behind me. You can tell Halloween is coming. Come here. Any other, no questions about that at all? Okay. Let me just see. I'm going to dip back into Asana and see if there's anything I've forgotten. Let's see. Get share back. I don't know why it takes me so, there it is right there. Share screen, Google Chrome. All right. So this is really the intro to Asana. You can see when you go into your home page, it will give you tasks that are due soon. The one I just made is not showing up because I now assigned it to Jesse, my colleague. And it also shows you your recent projects. Now, if I go into my upgraded account, and like I said, we used that free account for the whole career library, which is over 50 handouts and many, many videos. We've upgraded mostly because the size of our team, and there's over 15 folks we need in here. You can see that we're using this a little, very similarly, but basically what we decided to do was have for each smaller team, rather than having their own project, we put everybody's project in the same board that they can then move along. And so we're trying to use some color coding. You can see like some people have a photo, some people have just their name, so I can see who owns what and where they own it. But this looks a lot like the other one. Let me see really quickly if I can preview for you the forms. The communication plans, I think, are the best version of the forms. So if I go to their forms, oh, I don't think I have access to their forms. So I'll have to, and it's a template, so I'll have to add that as a link, a little video explaining forms to you. But just FYI, this is Asana. I'm going to go back into my presentation and wrong one. That's an email. Sorry. And then I'm going to show you really quickly Mondays. Look how similar this looks. Do you notice that? Like this doesn't look that different. And I'll dip into Monday really quickly. The one thing that you need to keep in mind when you're playing with any of these tools is cost, and will you be using it enough to represent the cost? The basic version, now I'm working on a free version right now, so there is a free version. But the basic cost is $8 a user per month. And then you can collaborate with up to 15 teammates with that, and then they have a premium. So the costs are a little similar to Asana, except that I don't know at what point, I just created a free Monday account, so I don't know at what point it's no longer free. But you can see when you click into here, and my favorite thing about these tools is that they fully integrate with Google Docs, Google Sheets, Word, 365 Cloud Computing. They integrate with every tool there is. So it's not like all of a sudden you have to do all your writing in a different platform or all of your spreadsheets or all of your sorting of information. It all works here. And I do think the notifications are really helpful too. I just created this account so I could show you guys how similar Mondays looks. I'm going to look really quickly and see. So you can see they give you this template board right here. And these are very similar to the board or the list view that I talked about before, where you can see these are like the projects and then the subtasks. There's different views for all of these in terms of how you can move things around. Also, you can drag and drop within here. You can mark priority. There are other ways to do that in Asana, but this is just a different view, and you can look. You can see default. Let me see if I can do timeline view. This is obviously a very different calendar view and a different way to use this. So the Career Center doesn't endorse one of these over the others. And like I said before, some of them are really specific to industries. I dipped into Asana to show you guys Asana because it's the one I have the most experience with, but you can see Mondays is really something you could teach yourself. The benefit of both of these tools as well is that they have a ton of online training, all of these tools, free online training for all of them. So if you decide to play with one, the first thing you would want to do is visit their YouTube page and teach yourself a little bit about what that platform is and what that tool is. There's a lot of money spent on advertising, so looking up which one is best isn't going to get you an answer necessarily, because there's a lot of disagreement about that. I would just dip in. First of all, do a little research into your industry, see what they're using. Tech, like I said, uses Basecamp, and then dip into some of the trainings to see which one kind of makes the most sense for you. All right, let me get into a little bit. There's not much left because project management technology is kind of a narrow focus here. But we also wanted to introduce you to the idea of careers in project management. Now, while I think it's important to have project management technology and project management as a skill on your resume for almost every job, there are entire careers exclusively in project management. So when an employer is hiring a project manager, typically that's someone who has some kind of an extensive background in project management in a previous role and or a project management certification. But it's, like I said, it's a really hot job market, particularly in technology, and particularly during the pandemic as everything is being managed remotely. Let me get into the next one. What we wanted to provide for you was a link to PMI. They're kind of the #1 provider of certifications. Now, here's what I will say. Some of these certifications are wildly expensive. I'm not going to suggest that anyone here today gets certified as a project manager unless that's a career path that they're really set on. These can be very expensive. And the thing I want to encourage you to keep in mind is that there's a lot of profits and like basically nonprofits for-profits trying to make money on selling credentials like this. So really buyer beware, be very cautious, make sure the credential that you're interested in is one that employers really care about. So what I would suggest is really, if you're interested in a role that involves a lot of project management, the first thing I would do is get out on a job board and use project management as a keyword and start to see, do they need you to have the experience? Do they need you to have the technology? Or do they want a credential? I think there's going to be entry points absent that credential at all. We just want you to know that this is a pretty common credential that folks pursue when they've landed on PMI or a certification focused role. It's not for everyone. So I just wanted to put that out there. The other thing we want to share, because these are really short sessions, we want to make sure you know what the Career Center can do for you. We have drop-in career coaching. We have virtual appointments. Those can be scheduled 24 hours in advance, and we have a ton of availability. We also have an email resume review service. I will say this, the resume review service has been so popular that it's got like a 5 to 7 day delay where you can mostly make an appointment. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. Where you can actually make an appointment with an advisor much faster than that. We also have a career library that I'll show you. And of course, Handshake and alumni sharing knowledge are things you need to know about. This is what the career library looks like. This is the project that we project managed on that one Asana board. Over 50 handouts on every topic, many of which have been updated for COVID. I see a question in the chat, so let me open that up really quickly, and I'm gonna stop sharing. Excuse me. Do you have the official website to get an official PMI certificate? Yes, it is linked in that presentation, and I can pull it for you right now and put it in the chat. I definitely want to make sure it's clear that some of those certifications are very expensive. I think everyone needs to be really careful about how they spend money for credentials like that. That is one credential that is respected in the industry, but to me, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do that. If project management is a pathway for you and you don't want to, don't want to spend the money, there's going to be other entry points for you. Like I said, getting in those job boards and finding out how valuable that is to certain folks is really helpful. I'm curious about other questions in the chat, or just unmute and ask.
I got a question.
Okay.
How much does the PMI certification cost? I think is it $1,500? $1,000?
They have several certifications, and I know they run higher than $1,000.
Wow.
They can be that's why I'm saying, like, a project manager, there's like certified associate, portfolio manager, agile manager. I think and then places like General Assembly or Coursera probably have project management courses as well. LinkedIn Learning probably has a project management course that's not a certification. So there's going to be a wide range of costs associated with those things. I think doing the research is really worth it in terms of figuring out, do I need this? Is this something that's going to have a return on investment for this cost? I think in this economy, it's really tempting to say, you know what, this certification is going to really get me where I need to go. But I want to make sure that's the case before we do it, because I don't want anyone, you guys already are either spending money at DePaul or you have spent money at DePaul. So I think that's why we're doing these sessions, to really help you learn how you can upskill without paying a lot. You can do a free version of Asana, watch a couple YouTube videos, manage one of your projects on that tool, and then Asana's on your resume. And then now you can say, I have a project management technology on here. I think those are going to be as common on people's resumes as Microsoft Office, starting very closely in the future. So there isn't a single student I meet with who I don't encourage to dip into one of those project management softwares for free, just as a way to make sure their employer knows that they have contemporary skills that are going to be valuable in a remote environment.
Do you have a PMI?
No, I work in higher education. The fact that I even use a project management tool tells me how common they're going to be. Higher education is approximately 15 years behind in every technology that we deploy. So the fact that I'm using Asana means that pretty much everyone will be using Asana or a tool like that, not just that tool. I also use Teams 365. So like cloud computing, real-time communication tools are going to be increasingly in common. That's how we picked the topics of all of our skills labs. We really thought through what are the skills that in the pandemic and in the future of work are going to be things that folks can, number one, teach themselves for free or very little money. For free is my preference. And what are the technology tools that, you know, are really like practical enough that you can teach yourself. You saw how drag and drop that Asana is. I mean, it really is like, you just kind of have to play with it to learn that tool. We don't always have a ton of time for that, but I would encourage folks who are applying for jobs now to be aware of some of those skill keywords. One thing I'm going to put in the chat is this MC Resume Optimizer, and I will include this in the follow-up email as well. One of the things we talk about a lot with our students and with our alumni is that almost every job is going through an applicant tracking system that is searching for skill-based keywords, and only 30% of the of any resume gets looked at by a human eye. So the link I just put in here, and I'll do a quick screen share just to promote it because I really love it, is a tool that for free basically mimics an applicant tracking system. This is a free tool. You copy and paste your resume into here. I'm just going to load the example. And this isn't just an example resume. The first thing it does that's really useful is it scans it for keywords. So it will at least tell you at the top, what are the skills you already have in your resume? This person is like a call center rep. So you can see a lot of the skills that are coming up are call center, customer service, customer relations, etc. What's really exciting about the skills it's identifying is I can then take my resume, and if I'm applying for a job as a media planner, and I'm only putting this in here because, you know, there's a lot of different jobs in here, but this one I think is really interesting because it'll show you what's missing. Most folks who work in call centers don't have a ton of the, like, it's got 3 key skills, which is great. So it shows first off, what are the key skills that you do have that relate? What are 2 other relevant skills? And it'll give you actually more than 3 key skills if you have more than 3. This person only has 3 of those. Then this is the most important part. And this is why we talk about project management. This is why we talk about other digital skills. Skill opportunities tell you, given the media planner role, what am I missing on my resume? Now, these aren't names of software, but depending on the job you put in, you'll get names of software, you'll get content management systems, you'll get other skills that you could conceivably teach yourself and then add to your resume. So this is a tool that I really highly endorse. I think it's free, which is great. We really want we don't want students or alumni to have to pay a lot of money. And it does a real-time analysis of the skills that you have and the skills that you either need to gain or just add to your documents. Maybe there's skills you already have and you don't have in your documents. So that's why we have this increased focus on skills and understanding skills, is because our knowledge around the applicant tracking systems and the way they're making it difficult for folks to even get their resume looked at. Real quick, I want to promote, please feel free to unmute and ask a question or throw one in the chat, but real quick before we go, I want to promote, I don't know why I unshared the screen, let me share it one more time. I want to promote our next skills lab. Next week is survey design, and what's really exciting about that is that it's being led by our assessment specialist, Sharice, who has a ton of experience doing assessment and designing surveys for art museums, for Fortune 500s, for all over the place. Survey design sounds really, I don't know, to me it sounds a little boring, but when she talks about it, it's exciting. I'm really excited about that. So just FYI, these are all the, sorry, I'm just trying to move my mouse really quickly. The remaining skills labs for this quarter are digital survey design next week, digital design skills, which I'll be doing the week after that, and then creative resume design, where we talk about how do you design your resume to get that kind of immediacy, particularly for those interested in creative roles, who are interested in creative approaches. So your resume either looks a little different or has some kind of brand. The other thing we'll be doing today, earlier, we already did a networking session, but then We're doing project managing your job search on Wednesday, 11/18 at 6 p.m. And then we're also doing an event, November 9th at 6 p.m., job and internship search, which is really like kind of intro to that search. Project management has a real narrow focus on actually like the project management part of the job search. So we'll talk a lot about strategies to make that a little less exhausting and a little more efficient a process. Any questions? While I'm going to release a quick checkout poll for you guys. And then I would love if there's any questions or ideas for future skills labs.
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
I wanted to know, like, on the career library that y'all have, do y'all have like the information about like Coursera and other sites that's like free or you have to charge, so that way you will know about how since I already graduated my master's, so I can build up my skills, like, learn about Wix, learn about Coursera, learn about Canva. Do you have like a list of different programs and services?
I know we had, the skills labs have covered a lot of those topics. Let me look really quickly because we're still building this library, and it's either up there now or it is in development, but I know we did a how to upskill and the technologies to upskill on. I'm looking really quickly to see if that got posted or if that's still in development. Sorry, it's taking a minute to load. And current students do have free access to LinkedIn Learning. So that's something that if you're a current student, you should think about. You wouldn't believe what you can learn from a YouTube video. I know that sounds insane, but if you Googled Wix YouTube video, Wix has its own YouTube channel. I'm really hesitant for anyone to pay for anything when they paid for default tuition. So that's something I just wanted to add. Let me quickly go into, so I'm in the COVID ones, navigating after the job search. Keep your skills current. I have 2 resources I'm going to throw in the chat. One is on keeping your skills current. Another is on the top 5 tech skills everyone should know. Where is it? Yes, so top 5 tech skills for non-tech majors. And I think in there we refer to some of those other tools. All right, so there's 2 links in that chat for some of the resources that were related to what you're talking about. Other questions?
Hi, I had a question.
Yeah.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
I was wondering, what are the challenges that you faced with Asana, or because Monday you said you just started today, but Asana, I am curious what challenges you faced in introducing it to DePaul, or because after 5, it had to have a purpose of starting that program, but what was the challenge that you found with it? Because in my industry, I tried introducing Google Docs and that was challenging enough. So I'm curious what challenges the DePaul Career Center faced with introducing technology.
I would say Asana actually has fewer challenges than Google Docs, if only because structure is part of the process, right? And that's one of the challenges of Google Docs, is that it is a free-for-all, and like best practices, where things are located, is it in a folder, who has permissions, all this other stuff. Like Asana has a lot of that already set up, and you set it up when you create the board. I think the biggest challenges we had, we didn't deploy it until we had to. So that eliminated one of the challenges, which would be, why am I doing this? We didn't deploy it for everyone until we moved remote. And then when we moved remote, I think the other challenge was figuring out best practices for the kinds of work we do in the Career Center. It was not a one size fits all. So like every career community team, advisor and employer engagement person had a very different structure for each of their, when we first deployed this, for each of their boards and projects. And then as we moved forward, we started to create similar and using templates. Like templates may only be available in premium. I think templates would solve a lot of problems for people, because then you'd figure out the one person who would beta it and do it right, and then they would teach everyone else. And that's kind of what worked for us a little bit too, because Amanda and Sarah and Tara, and I used it for at least 6 months before anybody else. And Amanda did it right, and Sarah did it right. I'm not taking credit for that. But I think it has fewer of the challenges of Google Docs, although I live and breathe Google Docs and I love them. It actually makes Google Docs more usable because those links, I don't need to see them in Drive. I can see them in Asana and I know where they belong and all that. You still have the other interaction, or the other issue is permissions. Like when you do integrate Google Docs into there, you have really got to think about permissions. DePaul changed their permissions so that they became really wild. And so we have to undo that every time we put a link in there. But I would say the biggest challenges would have been, why are we doing this? But we had to. And then every team doing it differently. Okay. So if I were doing it again, I would probably have a little more, I might have a beta team who then taught it to everyone else. Cause I think the buy-in piece of it too, like you got to have your little champions do it and then talk about how much time it saves for them. Which is really the motivator. People love assigning to other people. Like that,
all those tasks.
it feels good to number one assign, and it literally, and the other thing that happens in Asana, glitter. Like when you move something somewhere, or like a little unicorn pops up, like I know all of the tools use this, but I can tell you that if I have something I need to move that day, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens if I move this. So, and Google Docs doesn't do that.
Right. I'm also curious, what do the notifications look like? Because I know that in my office in particular, my boss had, with Google Docs in general, it was, I just sent her a link and said, just click on it and it'll take you to the document and you can start typing it. But she needed like a step-by-step direction. Yeah. So I'm curious if like the notification tells you what you should be doing.
It's basically a button that you go to, and it is a little more, unfortunately, my notifications go into Outlook. Okay. So I can't really speak to how beautiful they would be in a normal email system. I would imagine they would look better. They look okay, but there's basically like, hey, you have an update, and then a big old button, check it out, which is idiot proof. But I think it would probably, there might even be more visual links in Google. Like if you're using a different email product, Outlook is the enemy of good design. So I think that I can't speak to what it would do in a normal tool. And I'm being recorded. You can send this right to Microsoft. Just kidding. Any other questions or comments? Guys, survey design next week. If you don't go to that with Charisse, literally an expert. She literally designed surveys for the Art Institute of Chicago. Come on.
So like with the survey design, that's like what you use, because when I was in undergrad, we used to use Survey Monkey or Qualtrics. Is it Qualtrics? That's how you pronounce it?
Qualtrics, yeah.
Is that the same thing?
She's actually going to be talking about the best practices, not necessarily on the technical side. I think she'll dip into the technical, but really like a little bit of the why and the how of asking questions in a certain way. So it'll be a different mix. Like I focus more on like technology, Asana, knowing the boards, all this. Hers will be a little bit more half tech and like the best practices around don't ask a question in this way because it doesn't work. What's interesting about survey design is it's a growing field for sure, because we're always trying to use data and insights, but it's also like, to me, more of an art than a science right now. Like there isn't like a single educating entity that is teaching people how to do this. So I think it's a great skill to grow that differentiates you from other people who have never, I've made 1 million surveys. Have I ever thought about any of this stuff? Never. But Charisse has. And so I'm excited. I'm going next week, but it won't be all Qualtrics, SurveyMonkey. It'll be probably more a little bit about the why and the how of it.
Okay.
All right, guys, I'm going to make my kids dinner. You have a lovely evening. Enjoy the beautiful weekend, and I might see you guys next week or later this quarter.
Is there going to be any more events that's going to happen for January?
Oh yeah, we'll be doing a bunch of skills labs in the winter quarter, as well. Like this is going to be something we do weekly throughout the academic year, and winter intersession schedule isn't planned, but there are a couple events. And there's actually a whole series called Alumni Masterclass that I did not advertise tonight. That is happening. There's one in November, one on November 4th, and then another one, I think in December. So we've got some dates already in Handshake. All of those are in Handshake. So if you don't have a Handshake account and you want to know more, I strongly recommend requesting a Handshake account because we try and promote outside of it. It's just a little hard sometimes to get these to students. So does anybody want the link for how to request a Handshake account? Or do you guys already have one?
I already have one.
Cassandra, you have one?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
Okay, great. So all of our events are on there. There's some cool employer ones too. Check those out.
Now, I got a question. What do you
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
You want people to come to Margaret or Maggie?
Margaret, Margie, Maggie, I'll answer to any of those. I'm not picky.
Okay, I was just making sure because I ain't want because you marry. You know, I get kind of, finicky when people are married. They like, don't call me by your maiden name, but call me by your full name because you're married.
Yeah, no, I have a twin sister, so anyone who doesn't call me her name is my new friend.
Okay.
All right, you guys have a great night. Nice to see you,
thank you.
Gabby. Bye.
Bye.